In the WCBS Eye on Politics, tensions are heightened in the Middle East after the murders of 3 kidnapped Israeli teenagers whose bodies were found near Hebron. On our newsline is the Consul General of Israel in New York, Ido Aharoni. Mr. Ambassador, we welcome you back to WCBS.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you, sir. I think the murders of these 3 young Israeli men seems to have shaken not only Israel, but much of the world.
I agree. I think it's the fact that we were all once children, and many of us are parents. Every American, every person on the face of this earth can relate to this story, can sympathize with the grief and the mourning of the entire people, and especially the families.
Sir, what has this done to escalate tensions between Israel and Hamas?
Look, we, the Israelis, are very familiar with our neighborhood, so to speak. We live in a very difficult neighborhood. We're looking at a century-old assault on Jewish national sovereignty in the land of Israel. This did not start yesterday. It did not start 19 days ago when the 3 boys were kidnapped. You're looking at a conflict, at a struggle that we have with members of the Arab community that simply refuse to accept our very right to exist in that region.
If you could help us understand part of this neighborhood that you described, we understand there has been an increase in rocket fire toward Israel from, we believe, Hamas. Are these rockets landing in populated areas of Israel?
Fortunately, most of them do not hit population concentration, but over the years, 12,000 rockets were shelled onto Israel, paralyzing the entire southern region, killing many Israelis, traumatizing tens of thousands of children. But the real issue that we have with the Palestinians is the inability of the leadership of the Palestinian national movement to actually face their opposition represented by Hamas. Hamas is not interested in Palestinian nationalism. They do not support the 2-state solution. They don't even think the conflict is about land. Hamas is all about Islamic rule, and they're openly calling for the annihilation and the destruction of the state of Israel.
So Hamas, which is not part of the discussion between Israel and the Palestinians, is actually damaging those discussions. Is that correct?
This is correct, and our position has been that the Palestinian Authority, headed by Mahmoud Abbas, should not only criticize Hamas or condemn the kidnappings as they did, but proactively break the political alliance that they formed with Hamas only several weeks ago, which doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense for the Palestinians. It doesn't make sense for the Israelis. Mahmoud Abbas, instead of forming a partnership, an alliance with his enemy, what is expected of him to do, as many other national movements did in history, is simply face with courage his own opposition. He declined to do so thus far.
Mr. Ambassador, is a diplomatic solution with Hamas possible, or are we beyond that? And have we been beyond that for a while?
Well, Hamas is a terrorist organization. It is recognized as such not just by Israel. It is recognized as a terrorist organization by the United States, by the United Nations, by the European Union, and so on. The International Quartet presented Hamas with 3 benchmarks. If Hamas will accept them, it will become, in the eyes of the international community, a legitimate partner. And the 3 benchmarks are the complete recognition of past agreements signed between Israel and its Arab neighbors, including the Palestinians, a full recognition of Israel's right to exist as a national homeland for the Jewish people, and of course, and the renunciation and the denunciation of terrorism. And of course, the chances that Hamas will do so are very, very small. So therefore, we will continue to protect ourselves. We will take every and any precautionary measure that we can in order to protect our children from Hamas's aggression. We have to understand the mother of one of the perpetrators, of one of the murderers, just said yesterday on Israeli Channel 10 that she is proud of her son. These are the people we have to deal with.
But where does this go from here? Hamas launches rockets into Israel and is suspected of kidnapping and murdering 3 teenagers. Israel has retaliated with strikes on Gaza. Where does this go, sir? How does it end?
Well, I wouldn't describe our response as retaliation. These are simply acts of self-defense. We are defending ourselves today, unfortunately, tragically, and sadly, just as we had to defend ourselves back in 1929. In August of 1929, 5 miles from the very place where the 3 boys were murdered brutally, 67 innocent Jews, including 23 young students, were massacred by an angry Palestinian mob, Arabs. There was no provocation then. There was no provocation now. So the fact is that this is really a conflict that is not about land. This is about their ongoing habitual refusal to accept a right to exist. So where do we go from here? We have to be strong, we have to be resilient, and we have to persevere.
Will there be more bloodshed?
Well, it's up to them. We will do whatever we can to protect ourselves, our children.
Mr. Ambassador, we've heard that some in Israel have criticized the United States for not doing more to help find these young men when they went missing. Is that a legitimate criticism? Should the U.S. have done more? Could the U.S. have done more?
Certainly, this does not reflect the position of the Israeli government. The Israeli government is highly appreciative of the position taken by the administration and the president that consistently stood by Israel in our difficult moment, including this one. We will, as I said before, we will continue to try to inflict harm on Hamas's infrastructure. As you know, and as the listeners well know, Hamas is in charge of a massive depot of rockets and missiles in Gaza that they can use. And we are determined to make sure they do not continue with their aggression toward Israeli citizens.
But you do not, sir, see this as a source of tension between the state of Israel and the United States?
As I said before, we are very appreciative of the positive and the solid position taken by the U.S. administration.
He is the Consul General of Israel in New York, Ambassador Ido Aharoni. Ambassador Aharoni, we thank you for joining us today, sir.
Thank you, my friend. Bye-bye.